Good morning. Good morning. I want to welcome everyone again to our Wednesday morning class. Thank you for you that are here in person today, and for you that are joining us live through streaming or will catch us later. Today we're going to sort of wrap up the subject of reincarnation. Next Wednesday, though, I would like for you, how many that's here are taking notes? Okay, that's about, not quite half, but all of you should be taking notes. This is a class. You take notes in class.
Yes, sir.
Sunday morning is now a class. So now you take notes on Sunday morning because it'd be the Sunday morning class. I decide that's what I do. It's really not sermons or, it's a class. We're always learning here at HeartLight. So HeartLight is definitely transforming itself and morphing itself into a teaching center, a place where that we can distribute information so that we can decide what is true for us. HeartLight does not decide what is true for you. We give you data, information, knowledge, revelation, but it is up to you out of all of that to see what resonates to you that you want to give it the power of being what is true for you. And once then you decide what is true for you, you begin to put that together into a belief system. And you put it into a belief system that is not written in stone, but a belief system that can always be tweaked, can always be changed, challenged, corrected, and added to. And that's called conscious evolution, that we're evolving our consciousness. The different thing for that for me is that I have coined the term bio-conscious evolution. There's a lot out there about conscious evolution, but I want the evolution of consciousness to reach us at the cellular level, where we live. And so I've added bio for biology or for the physical manifestations of ourselves. So next Wednesday, what I would like, and this isn't a must to the point that you'll say, I'm not going to come because I have to participate, but you that will, from your notes and from what you have received for the last, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 weeks that we've been doing this, what are you thinking, I guess, about the subject of reincarnation? What have you personally received from it? And you can be totally honest about that. But I've given you many different directions on this subject, not one way to believe it, but there's different levels. And you must start getting used to this idea of entering into parallel, multiple consciousness. It's very important that you're going to hear the language take on a multidimensional platform. And what that means is what may be true at one level may not be true at another level. Again, we're not speaking about truth. Everybody get that? How many of you use Sunday's lesson a little bit? Did anybody use this idea of the difference in fact and truth? It's a fact, but it's not my truth. I think that's something that I want you to take with you and use that throughout your experience every day. It may be a fact that you got a pain, but it's not the truth that you were created with the pain. You're created whole. And the truth, not the fact, but the truth shall what? Make you free. Everybody say that. And the truth shall make me free. Again. And the truth shall make me free. That should just roll off your tongue. If you want to get free, you've got to understand the truth. And I hope by now that you understand the truth. Does anybody want to take a stab? You can give me one word if you want to tell me what the truth is. You can do it in one word.
Love. I am the truth.
I am the truth. So truth is my authentic identity. Do you realize how many people run around this planet and don't know who they are? And because they don't know who or what they are, they become gullible for other people to tell them who they are. And that's what all these 3D systems have set up to do, and that is to form us into their image of what they think we should be. Unfortunately, that benefits the few. But that's being broken today. And because it's being broken today, what has been established is no longer as strongly established. So that means we're in a breakdown mode of systems all breaking down. And I just again want to remind you, and you must feel this statement I'm getting ready to make is something you don't intellectually decide. It is something you feel in the gut of your being. Here it is. I have chosen and made a contract to be here at this time of this breakdown of an old paradigm, an old age, and to be here to resonate with the breakthrough of the birth of a new age. If you don't have that, most everything in your everyday life doesn't mean much. Most of us sitting here, and I'm going to take a chance to say this, but most of us just haven't quite found it in the things that we were told we would find the it. I'm talking about the it. The total it. I just call the it the coming together of everything, the ultimate cosmic aha. I think we're all looking for that at some level. And of course we were taught it was about looking a certain way. Maybe it was taught finding the right person and marrying the right person, or finding the right religion, or whatever it is that we've been taught just has not worked for the majority of us. And it wasn't supposed to, because you come in with a code of vibrations and frequency that does not fit the norm of a 3D model. And what I'm saying to you, that's why you're here. That's why you're sitting here at HeartLight. That's why you're here in the state of consciousness you're in, is because nothing has worked and has moved you on to continue to search for it. So you're truly seekers. You're on the quest. So the truth is ourselves. Okay. Just wanted to say that to you. I'm saying all of that because I have given you one level concerning a subject like reincarnation, first from a spiritual level. A spiritual level. And when you come from a spiritual level, you do not come from a place of lack or separation, but you come into a level of what I call the isness of God. The isness of God. It is. It's not, I don't have it, it's going to be. It is. It is finished. It is finished. In that sense, I kind of go with A Course in Miracles, which I didn't bring the book, but I like A Course in Miracles as my outer alignment to this idea that actually there is no reincarnation. So this really sounds complicated because I'm teaching there is no reincarnation, and yet I'm teaching you about reincarnation. But the question is, can those two things exist together in parallel dimensions? Yes. Now there'll be no reason for my spirit to have to reincarnate once it incarnated. The destiny of spirit was to incarnate into the human story. And we've talked about other great teachers before 2,000 years ago. Zoroaster, Buddha, all the Hindu god and goddesses, there's a lot of those. And all of those who, Muhammad even, who experienced enlightenment at some level, but it was more about human enlightenment. I'm not sure it was so spiritual enlightenment. In fact, if you will study most of these, they made no claim to deity whatsoever. Buddha did not at all connect to any deity that was divine. He believed that enlightenment was a human experience, which he did give the world. Buddhism does give a sense of enlightenment. But 2,000 years ago, something is very uniquely happened in my version of it. And that is the fact that it was not human enlightenment, but it was divine enlightenment. Divine enlightenment. That a human being came to know that the divine was now incarnated into the human story. So it's not the evolution of humanity to enlightenment, it's the recognition of the divinity in the human story that can make the difference. And I believe that the teaching that has been edited out of the church, speaking mostly of the Christian church, who has made Jesus, Yeshua, the central figure, icon of that religion, has totally taken away a lot of his teachings that would empower the human being. And of course, the church did not want the human being to be empowered. This is why a lot of things change that we talk about, we who are in sound and vibration and frequency, because that was a huge change when all of that began to change. The frequencies of the chants, the frequencies of the Gregorian chants, the songs and the hymns, all at first carried specific frequencies to empower the person who sung them. They made them understand that they were not just humankind, but they were God-kind. That they were love, not their fears. They understood that that which was given to them in a heaven far off was found in themselves, for the kingdom of God is within you. So something happened then that I think was universal. And that was the discovering of consciousness to understand the consciousness of I'm having trouble with words because words keep drawing me back to where I don't want to go, because that's what language does. So I'm trying to find the closest that I can. In other words, I believe when Yeshua Jesus Christ found out he was the Christ, that Christ was the universal mind of God made manifest in the human experience. There we go. Sometimes I have to get my thinking out of the way and let it come out that way. And that's why we call this what? Christ consciousness. Most people are somewhat okay with that. Even people that's not into Jesus seem to have a resonance more with Christ consciousness. And that's because that it represents the universal mind in them, or what we'd say the mind of God in us. And we know it's in there because even Paul wrote it well when he said, let this mind. All right. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let's do it better. Let this mind be in me that was in Jesus Christ Jesus, who thought it not robbery to be equal with God. So that means you must have the mind to let, or you couldn't let it if you didn't have it. It's your birthright. It's your inheritance that is in you. So there is no reason for spirit to have to go on a journey of reincarnating for its own evolvement. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no place to evolve. There's nothing to add. There's nothing to take away. Spirit is the totality of itself. Doesn't need anything to make it itself. It just is the totality of itself. We know that the word spirit in theological terms comes from the Greek word pneuma. I think it's P-N-E-U-M-A, pneuma. And what did we learn that's unique about that word pneuma in the Greek? What kind of word ending does it have?
The feminine.
Masculine. Pneuma is masculine word ending in Greek. Soul, which has several words, but the one that I picked is suke, or psyche, which we get the word psychology, all the mind words, because it means mind. But that ends in the feminine. So you got to have this polarity of the male, the feminine, or as the Eastern call it, the yang, and the yang. So that's in most all teachings is the male and female principle, and how you can't really produce anything without how to use them to bring forth. He, spirit, becomes the seed of God in her. When spirit, seed, is seated in her, and get this, and she conceives, because every time he plants seed in her, doesn't mean it's going to conceive. It means a good time, if you're lucky. If you're fortunate. It's just a good time and that's it. It's over. But then there is that mystical moment that we don't totally understand, when the many times that we've come together and produced nothing, something happens. It's just the right fit, the right moment, the right frequencies. And therefore she conceives. And when she receives to conceive, she can achieve. I don't know about you, but there's some things I'd like to achieve. But my ego mind's going to tell me I need to get it first because I don't have it. That I'm in a state of lack. I haven't reached it yet. I'm not good enough yet. I'm not smart enough yet. I'm not spiritual enough yet. I'm not enlightened enough yet. Enough. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy enough. I got to work harder. You know the old saying, work smarter than harder. And I really mean that, because consciousness is your best friend to your awakenment. Because you can be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, from this mortal to immortality. I love that. We shall not all sleep. Thank God for that. I'm going to hold on to that one, Valoris. Thank God everybody's not going to stay asleep in the illusion of the world. But it says, there shall be those that shall be changed in the moment. Interesting words. Changed is what? You should know some of these things. I've taught it for 5 years. What does changed mean there? What is the Greek word for changed? Metamorpho. Look it up. So this isn't just change from here to there. This is the big one. This is transformation. This is big. This is that caterpillar becoming the butterfly, not a better caterpillar. So let this mind. Now, what we want them to produce and achieve or conceive is a new blueprint for our physical body. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for my new body. Now I'm going to do some things and occupy till it comes. Right herbs, right supplements, right this, right that. Try to do a decent diet. Try to do all the things I can. Those things are not going to bring me my new body. They're going to try to make my old body hang around long enough to get the new body. Everybody understand that? Don't let death and disease get you before your time, if you can help it. And there are things you can do. You can't just put it all on the doctor, or the healer, or the chiropractor, or the acupuncturist. Those are all wonderful things maybe that can help you, but they're not the answer you're looking for. The answer is, who can conceive in me a new blueprint for cellular development? I'm really off my path today. But this is what Spirit wants to say to you. So that's why we use the word soma. We have pneuma, spirit, masculine principle. We have psyche, feminine, spirit, mind, penetrates, human mind, mystically, conceives. Oh my God, we've conceived now. Now, mothers and fathers, I guess, but mostly mothers, realize that, we've conceived. Now I've got 7, 8, 9, 10 months of work to be formed in me. Somebody help me. He can't do it by himself. He can't do much by himself, I'll tell you, other than have a good time. His 15 seconds of fame. So now a new blueprint has been conceived. And that's where so much comes together. You know, this thing isn't pieces like the tuning forks and the vibration and the sound and all. These are not pieces. They're ingredients to a recipe. And when you get the right recipe together and you're doing the right things that are aligning with yourself, you will definitely begin to let that seed that has been planted into your mind begin to take shape and form. This is why it is written that the Apostle Paul wrote, I don't know if he did or not, but we're going to read it like he did, to the early church who had received Christ in them. To me, one of the greatest revelations of the Bible. And hope is Christ in me, the hope of glory. And I'm saying Christ in me as I have recognized consciously that the mind of God dwells in me, in my human brain, and in my heart. Okay? So then, we have to, this is what he said. So the early church who had received that Christ in them, the hope of glory, he comes along and he says, but here's the thing. I'm going to work with you and travail with you and labor with you until Christ be formed. Receiving Christ is not a one-time deal. It's not a one-time experience. Okay, I've got the totality of Christ. Christ comes in as a seed, as everything starts as a seed. Christ is the incorruptible seed of God, it says in Galatians. The incorruptible seed of God planted into your mortal mind. But if you don't take care of the seed will not become what it is. It will not manifest itself. No more than planting a seed out in this garden for a particular vegetable and then start praying every day that God will bring forth that seed while you give it no attention, don't water it, don't take care of it, don't do the gestation part of it to create the right environment so it can come forth and be the fruit that it is. And this is where Christianity has failed me, because they didn't teach me how to let Christ be formed in me. They wanted to abort it. They wanted to stick the letter of the law into the womb of my consciousness where I'd received the seed and abort it from being formed. Because the minute it is formed and births itself as the new you. You are the birth of the Christ. Thank you. I know it's deep stuff. Wait out there. That's what HeartLight is supposed to be. Any spiritual community should be a place for gestation to take place so that that seed that is in us, we've got the seed. I mean, the seed is the thing. It's just not the thing manifested. A seed for lettuce can say at some level of faith, I am the lettuce. And then you come along with your intellect and says, show me. You said you're the lettuce, then show me the lettuce. Well, that will not happen until first the seed has to die. Because the seed don't come up. It's what's in the seed. Are you following me? It's got its own DNA. Lettuce has a DNA. Radishes have DNA. Carrots have DNA. They're unique DNA that will bring forth the fruit of the thing that has been seeded. And it won't bring up something else either. It'll bring up itself. Carrots don't bring up turnips. Carrots seed will bring up and be a seed. And that's why the divine seed in you can only bring forth itself. It can't bring up a different, better human. It brings up a divine human. And this is why I'm glad every day that I have Jesus. And I feel for people who don't have a blueprint, a sample. I need to see something that looks just like me, with eyes and nose and ears, a real kind of human figure that's made it. If you don't have that, I think you're kind of lost. I think you're just wandering down the path, but you have nothing that you're heading for. You have no vision of what is it going to be like when I'm fully enlightened as a divine human being. What will that mean? What will I be able to do and accomplish? So for me, on all these years, Jesus, now I had to lose Jesus to find Jesus. Are you hearing me? I had to lose my religion, Christian form of Jesus. And that's one thing that I will give honor to my coming to unity. Because unity really is the first new thought community that I embraced and embraced me many years ago. So I do appreciate the fact that I've entered into a different state of consciousness, and the Fillmores still held on to a lot of Jesus' teachings in unity, which I appreciated because I wasn't ready to lose Jesus. I was ready to find Jesus because I had lost the other one. Are you with me? Now, a lot of you lose things and you just lose it and don't find nothing to take its place. And I feel for you because that's where the ego is going to shine the brightest in your world, because anytime there is a blind spot in consciousness, the ego fills it with its illusions. So don't lose something till you find something. He who loses his soul shall find it, the scripture says. He who loses his soul shall find it. I had to lose God out there to find God in here. I had to lose Jesus to find the Jesus in me. And again, I want to say to you that I am not at all willing to debate Jesus with fundamental Christianity. I have no desire to try to prove anything. I don't really even care to prove his history and what's accurate about history, because the Jesus I know is the metaphysical Jesus in me, which is the mind of God, the Christ in me. That's all I need. I don't need his history. I don't need to be accurate. See how the ego will get you to distract yourself. Because if you're out here trying to form a belief system about who Jesus is and you're trying to prove who Jesus is, you're not feeding what's being formed in you. Christ in you, the hope of glory. Okay, I've got to get on. Sorry, Holy Spirit, but I'm taking over now to get this kind of done. So, all I'm saying to you, on a spiritual highest level of reality, there is no need for reincarnation to take. And I just feel like I'm running over this again and again, but until you can answer some of these questions, I realize it's not in your consciousness yet. So let's go back to the he, she, and by the way, soma word ending is neutral. Male, female, neutral. 3. Look for the 3s. Pingala, Sushumna. What's the other one? We have the Pingala, Ida Pingala, and the Sushumna. These are 3 energy channels, that's positive, negative, and neutral, that run through your body. So this is always there, but are you working with it? If you'll work with it, it will work with you. And that's why we need those teachings also. They're within Soma energetics, but they're bigger than Soma energetics because they're divine spiritual principles of energy and vibration and sound. So, here's the thing that I love in my love story, and this is a love story between him and her. I tell you, one of the most I think, ignored books of the Bible that is never talked about or hardly preached is the Song of Solomon. And it says, for let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for his love is greater than wine. For my breasts were like grapes, but grew into towers. I mean, it's a very sensual little book about an intimacy and love story between the spirit and the soul. And his love so much for her. Now, I want you to hear what I'm saying, because this is straight from heaven. He loves her so much that even though he doesn't need to incarnate, she does. Because a part of her believed in separation. A part of the mind believed in separation. Part of the psyche divided itself. Now I want you to think about this on a very deep, unconscious level as to why Christianity has given you two different archetypes of the feminine, the whore and the virgin. Mary the virgin, and then they made Mary Magdalene into the whore, which that is not accurate, but that's what they made her to be in Christianity. They did not give a healthy feminine archetype whatsoever.
Terrified of feminine power.
They have a great fear of it because it can conceive and bring forth the living truth, the living you. Do you know what? I will say this. Everyone you sitting here are pregnant with the new you. It's a pregnancy. And I think we're in toward the last trimester, which I understand, ladies, is not a comfortable time. I've seen it. I saw my wife going through it. Couldn't sit, couldn't find the right way, nothing was comfortable. Kind of like things are now. Things just don't quite fit right now. Things are just not quite comfortable now. And then even in some cases, the birth pains have started. The labor has started. Why do you think everything you go to says, breathe? That's the first thing they're going to teach you, right? In the lowest classes, breath. Use the breath with the pain, and you'll have an easier, better birth. Breathe. All of these are signs to say, in enough of you, something is formed to the point that it is very soon may be ready to be birthed. And you know, it says that after all the pains of the birth, it says, joy cometh in the morning. I'm here to tell you, joy cometh in the morning. It's going to be worth it. You mothers know what I'm talking about. After hours and hours of labor and all of that, and thinking, oh my God, you know, how did I do this? How did I say to him, get out of here, don't touch me ever again? But when that baby is put in your arms, the pain is just gone in the joy of what you have brought forth. And I want to encourage you and tell you, joy shall come in the morning of this new age and this new time that is birthing in each and every one of us. So part of her stayed with him, spirit, So there's a part of your soul that is at the level of the spirit. This has been the confusion of theology, who's tried to make the soul immortal. The Bible does not teach an immortal soul. It once says the soul that sinneth shall die. It says beware if he can destroy the soul. There's just scriptures throughout that tell you the soul is not fully immortal. So they try to confuse soul and spirit as the same thing. They are not. But a part of the soul is with spirit. Part of the soul went with the body. So we have a split soul or a split mind, which I think my ability to read Scripture differently than most people, I realize, tells us that we are double-minded. That's what it says. You are double-minded and unstable in all your ways. That's quite a scripture. You are double-minded. And then it defines the two minds as a carnal mind, which is enmity against the spiritual mind. Now there's your inner idea of ego, the devil, whatever you want to call it. You know, they've taken these inner things and put them in roles. Like one time I read the whole thing about a devil with horns and a red suit and a fork was all due to the amphitheaters of Greek when they were doing the melodramas and they needed the villain, they needed the bad guy, and somebody came up with this costume, and the church adapted to that costume of the devil to be able to recognize who was the devil because of a certain costume, and that somehow made it into religious literature and art, and now it's in movies and all kinds of things. So when you're out there fighting that one, you're not taking care of the one in here. And that's your carnal mind. Does anybody remember the word carnal? Where does it come from? I'm sorry? Thank you. Comes from the Latin. Carne, carnage, fleshy, meaty. So when you're in your carnal mind, you can be called a meathead. To be carnally minded is death. To be spiritually minded is life. It's all in there. It's just right there. That the soul is split. Part of it with spirit, part of it with the body. So the part that's with the body is what needs to evolve back to the level of itself so the soul can become one, and then one with spirit, and then spirit and soul can then become one with the body until there is no more mind, body, and spirit. And that is called a new creature or new creation in Christ. And that's what's not being taught as far as I'm concerned. People are not teaching the next level of what it means to be a human being. They're too busy trying to fix what we have been so we can be better at what we were instead of become what we are trying to evolve to. It just so bothers me that we think the body is it. People go around saying, God made my body. God created my body. And I'm going, I don't know what God you got. But I think I'd get me another one that could get me a better body than this one. But I don't believe what I call my spiritual source or creator created my physical body. I think it created bodies and then gave them ability to make bodies and said, go and multiply. I'm not going to multiply you. You're going to multiply yourself. And how you choose to do that, you're going to have to live with it. You see, the whole story just needs to be rewritten, people. The whole story has to be rewritten. And even in metaphysics and New Thought, to me, there's still a little too much mixture in there. We need to get clear of what is the story that the Holy Spirit gives us versus what the ego gives us. And be sure that we have to be careful not to over mix them. So, here's my love story. He, Spirit, loves her so much, that part of her, that has fallen into the density of the body, identity, that he follows her in her journey back to herself, which takes many lifetimes to do. Reincarnation is not a spiritual thing, it is a soul thing. But he, Spirit, follows her through how many incarnations it takes for her to raise her frequency back to be whole again. And that's, who do you think's saying here on Sunday morning? I am whole, I am. Spirit is saying that. Spirit is saying that. We are declaring Spirit. So, oh my goodness, I don't know where time goes. I don't know why I keep going back through these things, but that's just the way Spirit leads me until we get the story. So next Wednesday, what I'm asking for is just a little bit of feedback from you to what have you gotten from this teachings of reincarnation for you. I want to know what you have gotten from it. If you haven't gotten anything, that's what you say. If you got something, fine, share it. But I want each one of you to give me something that is yours, not mine. I've given you the data in some way. All right, we're going to talk the rest of the time about karma. I got a lot about karma here that I want to go into. What is karma? You may have wondered what is karma and how karma affects your life. Karma is a concept with few definitions, specifically in Hinduism and Buddhism. And the common sayings, what goes around comes around. Another one that you might know is what you sow is what you shall reap. Hinduism identifies karma as the relationship between a person's mental and physical action and consequences following that action. It also signifies the consequences of all the actions of a person in their current and previous lives and the chain of cause and effect in mortality. Buddhism karma refers to a principle of cause and effect, the result of action, which can be verbal, mental, or physical. It is not determined by not only the act, but by the intention. And that's the important part that I wanted to talk about a little bit here, is intention. Intention. I wrote down and it's kind of a poor example, but it's the only one I really could come up with out of the Bible, to show you that it's the intention that's going to set your karmic experience, not just the action, but it's where the action is coming from. So what I found is, and I'll tell you who made this famous was President Jimmy Carter years ago. I tell you that whosoever looks at a woman and cherishes lustful thoughts has already in his heart become guilty. So intention is recorded even before the act. That's how important it is to be connected to your intentions. All right? The workings and science of karma. Karma promotes intentional action. For example, when you help someone in need, the action leaves an imprint. Now this is important. A one-time thing does not set karma. It takes doing things enough over and over to create a vibrational pattern of some kind. So let's read this again. When you help someone in need, the action leaves an imprint, and as these imprints develop, with experience, it opens the possibility of you receiving help in return. So doing something one time is not necessarily going to cause a reaction of the same thing. You have to do it enough times until you have created and developed it into a pattern. So you have to look at the things that you do over and over and over and over again that's going to end up in your karmic story. Conversely, harmful actions bring about negative consequences. You won't receive help when you need it, but instead may receive some kind of harm. How does karma work? Let's look at karma examples, which I've already used this one. If you were to plant oregano, would you expect something else in its place? Of course not. We talked about that. Karma psychology is essentially the same. If you act with good intentions, happiness will follow. If you act with ill intentions, problems will follow. When you see dishonest and cruel people in positions of power and get ahead of life, and kind people face hardships and die young, it becomes difficult for us to accept the law of karma. Especially in our own life. When something happens to you, the first place that you probably will go in your egoic thinking system is you want to play victim. I didn't deserve it. Why did that person do that to me? Or why did I have that wreck? Or why did I have this accident? Or why did that? Now this is hard to talk about. This is hard stuff. But according to the law of karma, you're having an opportunity to correct something that needs to be corrected in your karmic story. So if you have, and we all do have challenges going on at some level, mentally, physically, financially, I'm sure something is going on in your life that's seen as a challenge. And maybe you're kind of wondering, why me, Lord? Why is this happening to me? I think I'm kind of trying to do the best I can. I go to HeartLight on Wednesday. I go Sunday. I support it. I go to yoga. I meditate. I do this. You know, all of that reasoning part of the intellect starts telling you why you're the victim and why you shouldn't be going this. You don't deserve it. But you see, you don't know what actions show up in your life that have been long forgotten. That is a pattern into your subconscious karmic debt. Now, if we could take that different approach, that different consciousness of seeing this as, okay, this has happened not to me, but for me. What a great shift, just that word. This didn't happen to me, this has happened for me. What would it happen for me to do? Well, one, I'm going to change my intention or my consciousness about it. And in doing so, I'm not just taking care of this particular situation that is happening or showing up right now, but I'm also resonating with all other patterns of this in my karmic story for however how long back you need to go. Yes?
Are there levels of karma, a personal level?
Yes, we're getting to that.
Okay.
And we have probably time, but since you mentioned it, we'll get to it. Types of karma. Karma can be individual or collective. For example, individual karma is created by a person's thoughts, words, and actions. But when people act as a group, like when soldiers use weapons or when a religious group prays or meditates, they create collective karma. Thank you. You moved me on.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be. Good karma versus bad karma. Karma can be divided into good and bad karma. Good karma is a result of good deeds done for others, while bad karma results from intentional harm. Now, sometimes you just do things stupidly from your human as a reaction, but sometimes you intentionally mean to do certain things. That's what you're going to have to pay for. When you intentionally try to hurt somebody, or you intentionally lie to somebody, or deceive somebody, or do something horrible to somebody. And as I say, we all do things and we're sorry we did it. We wouldn't have done that. That doesn't count. If your actions cause lasting pain and suffering, they're regarded as negative and destructive. So there's something called sanchita, karma versus prarabdha. These are Indian words. Karma has 4 dimensions. Of them, sanchita and prarabdha are the 2 most common. The karma, sanchita is the warehouse of karma, which goes back to evolution. So you're carrying species karma too. The whole story of how humanity has evolved and how they've handled it is also written in one level of your karmic issue. This is why things can happen to you that's not individual, but it's because of humanity itself. Because you represent all humanity at some level, at a collective level. It is believed that when people close their eyes and become aware, they can know the nature of the universe because they have a warehouse of information. This other karma is the information given to you in a current lifetime. So you got that. You got karma that started at your entrance into this lifetime. And that's pretty fast karma. That's faster because that karma was made in this timeline. So therefore, in this timeline, there's less buffer between action and reaction. So this is something that you can do, and immediately karma will show up. It doesn't take lifetimes for it to show up, or years. It can show up very quickly. And there's a great teaching on that from Greg Braden and the change of magnetic fields, and how there's less buffer between thought and action. And so much is going on in this world, my goodness. And I know you feel it, whether you understand it or not. I don't think we understand everything that's going on. We just know something big is going on in the world. So, in closing, because I've got a few minutes, 4 main principles of karma are: small actions can lead to great results. Don't underestimate a small action. Holding a door for somebody at a restaurant. Picking up something for someone. Just things that you just don't think a lot about can actually result in great benefits karmically for you. Because the universe doesn't look specifically how small or big something is. It just looks like this is a wonderful deed that came from the heart. Karma is non-transferable. That is, you're responsible for your own karmic experience. No one else can experience your karma for you, nor can they remove it for you. Ha ha. Isn't that interesting?
Is there
I could
insight on whether you can heal ancestral karma injuries?
That's a whole different level. That would be under the collective karma.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Is that,
Well, what we can do...
that's part of what all of us are doing, healing a lot of that ancestral karmic garbage.
Yeah, which is part of my Soul Energetics program.
Helps get you.
That's big. Our big ancestral story thing is huge. But I'm very clear that I'm not doing it. I'm facilitating them into a way that they can change it. I don't have the power to change their story.
Right, got it.
So, but yes, we as healers are facilitating the idea of self-healing. Very quickly, non-committed actions won't give you the results you want. You must fully commit to actions or intent to bring about results you desire. So, it takes what? Doing something 21 times to make it a habit, somebody say. So, kind of, karmic actions won't disappear on their own. You must experience the results, whether good or bad. So, what that means, and this is important, I want to take a minute for this idea of not falling into evil for evil. Scripture says, do not give evil for evil. Do not think people deserve what you think they have done to you. Everybody get that? You do not do to people what you believe people have done to you. And that's what separates the babes and the adolescents in Christ from the adults. If you have reached a level of maturity, you will realize that it is your place not to render evil for evil, fear for fear, anger for anger. But it is your place to extend the opposite. And that ain't easy, I know. But it becomes easier the more you practice these divine principles. So next time somebody really pisses you off and you want to hit back or you want to say something back to hurt them because they hurt you, if you can stop and find a still point, just find a still point and realize in this moment, I have the power to choose again. To choose again. Yes, Karen.
What if you don't retaliate, but you mentally retaliate?
If you what?
Mentally retaliate. Like,
Intention.
oh, I wish I told that person
It's
off.
intention.
That's still your intention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the place of intention, absolutely. And I'm not, again, these are things that have to be, and I'm trying to do that, is just make you aware. That's all I can do, is just make you aware, because if we don't talk about these things, then we don't have the awareness within us. And that's why if I have to go over this and go over this and go over this, I'm willing to do that, because you didn't get where you are in your belief system overnight. Some of you have years and years and years and who knows lifetimes of certain belief systems that is kind of written in you. And here we are trying to change the whole story. And you can't do that one time. I can't do that in one lesson, one Sunday morning, one Wednesday. So be patient and willing that we just keep coming back until we pull the weeds out of the garden and quit mowing the lawn. Make it look pretty, yes. Dolores.
Can I just throw in a funny story? One of my teachers said, we can use that energy in a different way. So when somebody throws that at us, and instead of getting angry, she said that she would just say, that just melts my fat.
Well,
I like that.
and this is truly what it records that Jesus taught us, to love your enemy, turn the other cheek, pray for them who despitefully use you. I mean, it's all right there. I don't know why they don't practice it. You know, they'll fight you and kill you over the Bible, but they don't practice the Bible. They really don't. They don't know what's in their Bible because they're blinded by their dogma and doctrine that they've been taught. So, let's take a moment. Again, I really, by reaction, want to apologize for the way these classes go, but I don't know what else to do but to give in and just let Spirit take it where it wants to go. That's just the way I roll. And I think most of you by now understand that I am not in control. So again, today we take what has been brought forth in this class and lay it upon the altar of our higher self. That part of us that is the knowing part of us. what of this information that has been shared today that we are ready to receive individually and collectively as a community will be received effortlessly and easily into our consciousness. We've taken a big subject, a controversial subject as reincarnation, to task. And we've done our best to try to give us different ways in which we can look at it, but we give it to you, Holy Spirit, who is our teacher, leader, and guide, to teach us. Let us each and every one find what is true for us. And now we release and detach this knowledge and information to the higher part of our mind and the atmosphere of our mind. And so it is. Okay, thank you very much for coming today and contemplate upon these things. Mark, I need to see you before you leave.
In my mind, I'm scampering.